So the FRDCSA has tons of, I've gone out, I've collected, I just looked at the system, and it had 256 different packages that implemented a huge variety of, is this on the net? Well, I could look at it later, but yeah, so if you want to see that, you can go to the FRDCSA, just Google FR, I'll write it up here. So just Google that, and also external code bases. And that will give you information about some of the, now not all this software is natural language processing, but it turns out that with the project, a large part of it is because NLP and the related fields like natural language understanding, natural language generation are very important tools given the proliferation of online text and being able to understand these modern, for instance, you have newsfeed analysis, which is, and for instance, RSS feed. So if anyone's, you can actually look at, they have a field called topic detection and tracking, TDT. They look at, with incoming news stories like your RSS feeds, they can actually identify when first mention of a given topic occurs and track it throughout different feeds and so forth. And so that's used by the intelligence community. TDT software hasn't really been released. The LingPipe, which is one system, has some components for it. So, okay, so I'm really bad at generalization. I'm really good at specifics, as you may notice. So I want to know, does anyone have any questions up until this point? No? Okay. So
do you need all the internet there?
no, I'm okay. The presentation would get really boring if I was just Googling stuff.
Yeah.
If it's not already boring. So I'll just read this list of topics, and if anyone has any interest in them or wants me to clarify what it is, I'll do so. So acquisition of lexical knowledge, author identification. If you have a text, figuring out who wrote it, right? That's actually, in comparative linguistics, I think they do a lot of that, yeah.
Acquisition of lexical knowledge, what exactly do you mean?
I don't know. I don't know. That's so lexical knowledge. A lexicon, I think, is sort of the same as a vocabulary. I don't
Dictionary.
Yeah, kind of. So the lexicon is all the terms in use, I think. And so lexical knowledge. There's a system out there, very powerful system that you all want to look at if you haven't seen it already. It's called WordNet. And what WordNet is it's essentially a giant machine-readable dictionary. And it relates terms to their synonyms, their antonyms, and everything. And it's all queryable. There are Perl, Python, etc. interfaces. You're going to want to study WordNet. It's one of the big natural language processing systems.
So it's
WordNet is a lexical knowledge base.
It's like a combination of a dictionary with a thesaurus.
Yeah, but there's more kinds of knowledge in there that are contained in those.
Well, so you say acquisition of lexical knowledge. Do you mean ways of coding it to dump it in, or ways for the machine to extract and
all
from
kinds,
text?
anything relating to that context. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's all sorts of tools for this, and there are different research seminars or conferences, and they have hundreds of papers that go into very fine. I wish I had some resources. Maybe I'm going to be presenting on this again in a couple of weeks. What I'll do is I'll put the finished presentation online and send it to the list. Okay. So there's author recognition. I just mentioned that. Same thing as identification. All right. Subject classification. That's something I'm working on. For instance, looking at text and figuring out what subjects they're in. So it's kind of a classification task. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to model people's skills, and I want to do this by analyzing their writings, right? So this is a natural language processing task. How do we extract from their writings what their skill sets are? And so to do that, you kind of have to have sort of subject ontology. That's a hierarchy of all the different subjects and what their super subjects are and what their subsubjects are and so forth. And so deriving such an ontology is more of a knowledge engineering, but it involves heavily natural language processing. So there's text annotation. That is where you analyze the text and just do all kinds of markup, like with additional information about the text. Like Red Hat, you can say that's a company. You could put that a tag on it saying company. that's related to named entity recognition. That's one type of text annotation. You're annotating named entities. But there's also noun phrase chunking, verb phrase chunking. You can do again predicate tagging. So like what the subject, object are, etc. So there's text annotation is a very interesting area. And okay, so concept extraction, identifying what the key concepts in the text are. Content analysis, I forget what that is offhand. Content filtering, that is this text interesting to me based on what areas I've said I'm interested in. Controlled English to logic translation, that's actually relatively straightforward if you already have a controlled English. So one approach is to use machine translation to translate. What a controlled English is it has, natural language is usually ambiguous. There's more than one way to say something. There's additional ways one can phrase things. Thank you. So it's very ambiguous, but with a controlled language, it's actually, there's no ambiguity. Every sentence has a specific semantics. And so, and it uses a subset of natural language in order to work effectively. So translating from a controlled English to logic is relatively straightforward. So one way that, so translating English into logical assertions, that's like first order logic or second order logic, into knowledge base like OpenCite or MKR or PowerLoom or Sigma. There's a bunch of different, semantic web has different reasoners. So you translate it into OWL. Translating natural language into something like OWL is a very interesting problem. It's very difficult because there's all sorts of problems. When one speaks in English, there's, it's an AI complete problem. You need to have understanding of the actual domains in order to parse the English. And so, so controlled English, so translating to logic is a big problem. And I do have a system that's working on it. And I've been told by other people in the field that my system is really trivial and that, yeah, we already know how to do that and it doesn't yield much results. But my suspicion is, well, show me the code then. I'd like a copy of that system if you've got it. So put out as much software as is out there and use it to be able to parse it. So there's a project called relation extraction. There's a project called OpenCog, which is a very useful research artificial intelligence system. And one of the things they've been doing is they use a probabilistic knowledge representation system, and they translate language into that probabilistic system. And so that's an example of parsing natural language into logic. There's also CELT, controlled English to logic translation. Formalize is my system. I can't remember offhand the other systems that are out there that do this. So I mentioned cross-document co-reference resolution and entity resolution. So a very interesting field, especially if you're developing intelligent tutoring systems, is something like definitional of question answering. So you can say, what does it mean to, I can't think of you can think of items and their definitions, right? Like in mathematics, right? You might have paramodulation. I don't even know what that is. It's just the first word that popped into that. That would be, you would have the definition associated with what that was. And so extracting that from text is the subject of definitional question answering. Well, not just extracting it, but if you ask what is paramodulation, then it would provide the definition. So question answering systems are very exciting. They take corpora of text, that is, or corpus of text, that's a collection of text, that's a standard NLP term for it, and they allow you to ask questions about the text. Like if the text is about Caesar, you can say, what year was Caesar killed in? It goes, does a retrieval for all the synonyms of killed, right? That it gets that from WordNet. There are different approaches, but that's one approach. It looks for all the different common ways of saying it, and then it looks at the matching sentences for using an information retrieval approach, and then we'll extract those and then